Iran used Iranian-sponsored hackers to attempt a cyber attack against Boston Children's Hospital last summer.
Hackers sponsored by the Iranian government tried to conduct one of the most despicable cyber attacks I've ever seen right here in Boston when they decided to go after Boston Children's Hospital.
So to me, this separates it from the cyber attacks like on banking or economic attacks, which are catastrophic in their own way. But when you literally, whatever they were trying to do, it was trying to hurt kids. That's what Iran is trying to do.
The idea that we've had an attack attempt that's now public on Boston Children's Hospital by the Iranian regime, while the Biden administration is begging for a nuclear deal with the Iranians, to me is, Andy, frankly disgusting.
You have sick children, dying children in cancer units and other kinds of units, all dependent upon machines, computers. I'm not computer savvy to give the right word.
Knives when they do the surgeries
all these
now.
Things. I mean,
Robotics.
even doing cataract surgery on little children requires the use of the internet and requires the use of these facilities. And they're going after those, to disable those, to steal from those, to kill those patients.
This is what we want the FBI to be doing. You know, this is the work of the FBI, not politics, foreign actors, stopping cyber attacks on children's hospitals. And yet at the same time, remember, politically, it doesn't make a ton of sense because you still have an administration that would love to get back to a deal with Iran. It's like we talked about earlier in the week. It's what is enough for the people to say enough already. We're not going to try to get back into this deal. I mean, so this is Ted Cruz talk to Tony Blinken. This is about Iran pledging to stop trying to kill U.S. government officials.
American negotiators made specific requests for a commitment that the IRGC will stop trying to murder former American officials. And is it true that they said no?
Senator, I'm not going to get into the details of any discussions or negotiations in a public forum. Happy to come back and talk privately about that. Let me address a few things that you've raised, because I do think that they're important. First of all, I share your views on the IRGC, and especially a number of its component parts, notably the Quds Force, which is primarily responsible for the egregious actions that it has taken in terms of targeting Americans and, as you rightly say, continuing to do so.
Basically an admission by the Secretary of State, it's no shock, that, of course, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard are taking actions or trying to take actions to harm American officials. And we know that the FBI thwarted the attack on Boston Children's Hospital.
What is bothering me is when I hear Secretary Blinken basically saying to Senator Cruz, I don't want to get into anything that may disturb or distress the Iranians. This is not anything that we want to do that was going to disturb. I share your views, but I'm not going to, and there's component parts, a lot of this double talk, and I'll come back and talk privately about it. But publicly, I don't want to do anything that's going to disturb or distress the Iranians, because we, the Biden administration, is determined to get this JCPOA type deal through at all costs, no matter whether they attack Boston Children's Hospital, Grady Hospital in Atlanta.
At the same time, what the irony of this, Colonel Smith, is that you have the United States almost begging to still get back into this deal with Iran. And you said before we went on air that in these talks, you cannot mention terror. You cannot mention a cyber attack.
Right.
That it's only related to this nuclear situation.
The enrichment program, borders on the insane. I think part of it is a political victory for them, because the JCPOA started out in the Obama-Biden administration. Part of it is naivete. I'll give you an example of the naivete, Jay. Last week, Robert Malley, who is our chief negotiator for the Iran nuclear deal now, testified before Congress. And they brought up things like the terror attacks. And, of course, this attack on Boston's children happened last summer.
Right.
When they brought it up to him, he said, yes, but still the benefits of this agreement outweigh the risk of negotiating with the state sponsor of terror. Our lead negotiator actually said that before Congress last week.
There's no reason to be doing a deal with Iran. We should be looking at how to sanction Iran more, how to make it more difficult for Iran. We should be carrying out cyber attacks on Iran's nuclear weapon system. We should be working with allies to convince them that Iran is no good. And we have a good potential allegiance, Israel plus the Gulf states.
Yes.
And so you've got very wealthy countries. They're smaller than Iran, but combined they have a much better economies and good militaries because their militaries work with the U.S. very closely. So it's no longer this just Israel and the U.S. versus Iran. And these are countries that are going to say, if Iran goes nuclear, Israel doesn't really deny, but everybody believes Israel's got nuclear weapons. Okay, so what about us? We've got the money to do it. So do we need to purchase it from you to protect our own citizens? And that would go to all of those Gulf states who have were encouraged by the U.S. to go into those deals with Israel. Right now you could travel to Saudi Arabia on an Israeli passport.
Yep.
Saudi Arabia is not part of the Abraham Accords, but that's how open things are becoming. And we should utilize Iran, isolate them, but bring together a region of the world that is usually so volatile, but use it as a time to actually build up a whole new alliance against Iran.